the seagulls follow the shore, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the bus and they left the bus in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Good morning, I'm here. Everything's fine. Dodgy Dave, I see in the comments, his dodgy mic has arrived. I do apologise. We tried to get started a bit earlier today because obviously we are aware of a certain game kicking off at 12 o'clock, Phil. And of course, I think it was my idea and I forgot all about it. So you phoned me at 5 minutes to and said, are you coming on? I said, I'm actually sitting at my computer right now. I will be on just now. And of course, I didn't test to see if the microphone was still working, and of course it wasn't, so I did a quick reset. But we're here. It's all good, Phil.
That's why I'm always in about 15 minutes early in the studio to iron out these problems.
Yes, I know. I'm a bit rusty, guys. I was obviously not here last week. I was down in York, but I did manage to catch the game down there, Phil. But before we get into all that, right, let's just get crack-a-lacking. Regan is joining us as we speak. There he is. Nice. So, guys, thanks for jumping on board. As you can see, we've got Phil McGinley, Mr. Friday Night, is here with us, and the face that runs the place, Regan Stevenson, is here. He may have to drop out at half an hour, and he said he's got things to do today, but he's here just now, and I'm buzzing about it.
Yep,
Regan,
David.
I've not seen you in ages, mate. I've not heard the sweet tones of your voice in my ear in so long. How you doing?
David, I want to do a shout out to somebody that came to me last week and says I'm missing seeing my face on the bus. Don't you worry. The next few months you'll be able to see my face, no problem. I'll be back on the bus and I'll be ready to go.
Brilliant, mate. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad.
The face that runs the place. There you go. Literally,
runs the place.
Mm-hmm.
Right before we get into the real chatter, let's do all that good stuff, Phil. See if I can still remember this. Okay, so like, share, subscribe, become a Bhoycie Bus member. It's all optional. Our content is free, but it helps the bus run along that road nice and smoothly, minus my microphone. And of course, if you want to enjoy the game today with piesports.com, with a tasty pie that they have.
The best pies in Scotland.
The best pies in Scotland, as Regan has just said. Bus 1888 and the discount code, you get 12.5% off your order. My dad I'm surprised he's still alive with the amount of pies he's been ordering with lately. That discount code must be burning a hole The internet, the amount of times he's clicking that button, he keeps sending me all these pictures of the pies he keeps ordering. I'm like, steady on. There's other people wanting to buy those pies, Johnny boy. So what we got on today, Phil, obviously, we've got the game to talk about. We've got the lineup just been announced, which spoilers. I think Scott Howe's got them out there for us. I've got them here. I'll read them out in a wee second.
No worries.
Just other talking points today. Celtic striker is under the watchful eye of German legend. The Japan boss set for talks with Kyogo and Ange Postecoglou. And what's the latest on the Frimpong news? And a former Celtic player is in a chance of winning a league medal and being relegated in the same season. And
that sounds like interesting trivia, this one.
It does, eh?
Okay.
And obviously, Kyogo is on his way to become a half-century boy. But let's get the lineup first, guys. So, Scott Howe put it in the chat there. If you want to bring it up for us, Phil, if you can find it.
Sure, I'll go back and find it. Yep.
We've got Joe Hart, Johnson, Kobayashi, Starfelt, Taylor, McGregor, Awata, O'Reilly, Maeda, Hacksaw, and Kyogo. A couple of surprises there.
Aye, definitely.
I don't even see Carter Vickers' name on the bench. Is he carrying an injury today?
I think he is, aye. And I don't even see Jota either. So Jota must be injured as well. So that's quite interesting.
Regan, I was reading somewhere that is Carter Vickers he can be on a suspension if he gets another card. I think that might have something to do with that, or are they just rest him for?
Because they're playing Motherwell at home next week, so I don't know if that's a big deal, to be honest. And I think even if we get a draw today, we're still 10 points clear. So I don't know if there's much risk in the game anyway.
Right, okay.
I don't know if he's maybe just thinking maybe give Kobayashi a game because we're 12 points ahead, and even if we do get a draw today, it'll be 10 points clear with 6 games to go. So there's no much at risk.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be one of my first questions, Phil. Is this a game where Ange can not take the foot off the pedal, because we know he's not like that, but just is it to give players a more of a run out, like the Kobayashis, like Awata, Haksabanovic? Even I would have thought might have got a shout today, knowing that Klinsmann in the grounds today. I'm excited to see Kobayashi again alongside Starfelt, who will be playing on his favoured right-hand side as well.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's a strange one because Ange doesn't seem like the type of guy that will take a risk just for the sake of it, just give a player a bit of game time. And I think with the centre-back pairing in particular, I think he's always been quite, I don't want to break that up. I mean, this time last year when we were closing on the title, albeit the points difference was a lot closer, it was this time last year a lot of people were shouting for, maybe Chris Julian can finally get a game that he's back and fit, and Ange just wasn't up for doing any of that at all. Because again, why would you break up a partnership, a Starfelt and CCV that won the losing games? But maybe there is something in the suspension theory, because I know that he is on a certain amount of bookings. But again, it's like I just don't see him even thinking that way and being like, do you know what, I'll need to rest him just in case. It could be there is an injury somewhere, which hopefully it's not too serious.
David, you might know this. Sorry, Phil. I'm just going to ask. See, in terms of England, right? They crossed over to the cup competition. So would this cross over to the Rangers semi-final? Is this? No.
Well, that's what crossed my mind as well, Regan, because I did when I first started to ask the question, in the back of my head, I'm going, well, wait a minute, it's the cup. Rangers is a cup game, so I didn't think that did, but you might be onto something there. But the comment here by Alex, Subsea 1967, and said some players may not be suited to the plastic pitch, which I mean, I totally forgot that Kilmarnock have that monstrosity. So that may be a factor. Just the weather's changing; it could get a bit sticky out there, and he's obviously just wanting to test. So, like I said, there could be a mix of things: testing out other players, just getting them a run out. Where we are 12 points clear. Yeah, it's a good chance to let players have run out, but that I think the pitch may have a factor in input there. To be honest, it didn't actually cross my mind.
I hope Jota's okay though, because if he's injured, that could be a big blow.
Could be, because he's been terrorising them in recent games. So, yeah, we could definitely do with him being fighting fit. So, hopefully, that's not any sort of long term thing. And obviously, we'll be hoping that Hitati makes it back in time for that one. But I think as well, another reason, David, is you just kind of forgot about the Kilmarnock plastic pitch factor. Is we seem to have got to a point where we're not really struggling on plastic pitches now. There was a period when Stevie Clark was Killie manager, and we were struggling down there. As for Rangers were having a lot of shocking results down at Killie, and obviously we had our problems at Livingston, but we seem to now be getting good results on plastic pitches. I think it's kind of went to the back of a lot of fans' minds that it could be a factor. Remember Joseph Siminovic could never ever play on a plastic pitch? Remember that? Yeah, he always get rested whenever we went to Hamilton, Livingston, or Kilmarnock. But yeah, I think all the players can handle a plastic pitch, but the more I think about the theory about the semi-final, I've got a feeling that maybe the SFA and even though it's SPFL and SFA, I think suspensions would carry over. I've got a feeling it might, but or maybe it's just a case just don't take any risks with the semi-final women. I'm trust Kobayashi anyway, because for what I've seen from him so far, he looks okay. He looks steady enough, so no worries.
I think he played in the St Mirren game at home. And I think St Mirren, did they score a goal in the first 5 minutes? They get chopped for offside. Remember in the home game?
Was he playing that game? Is it? I can't remember. I am looking forward to seeing him though. Like it is going to be. I think like the comedy by Celtic Sunday, maybe it's a start of transition in the squad for next season. I think that is also a very good shout. I mean, the league is wrapped up. I think we're going to start seeing more of Iwata next season, and this is probably a perfect opportunity to get him bled into the team more. Moy didn't really cover himself in glory last week.
Moy was terrible last week.
So I think obviously, and then when Iwata came on, I thought we looked a bit more steady in that midfield, and I think Iwata is a very tidy little hand at the minute. I think he'll do just fine, and obviously this gives him the opportunity to really start playing with his teammates a bit more. And with Kobayashi, there is talks that we could be, it's not any secret, Ange will probably move on. One or two players you could consider assets next season. Is Starfelt the one to move on? Because if it's between CCV and Starfelt, I know who I'd rather lose, despite me always being a bit of a cheerleader for Starfelt on here. He is the one that I would rather move on, obviously. And maybe giving Kobayashi a decent run out today on his left, his favoured left side would allow to see that transition begin to happen as well. Almost preparing us for it. With Arthur Johnson being bought during the World Cup, we were already, that was us kind of being prepared. You were getting to see him play, maybe not for Celtic, but you were getting to see him play. It was almost like an advert or a trailer for what to expect from Arthur Johnson to almost settle the nerves of losing Josip Juranovic. And maybe that's just almost what's happening with the Kobayashi situation, Phil.
Perhaps it could be, yeah. See, with the games that he has played so far, I don't think he's looked too out of place. It was Morton and St Mirren he's played against, but then he had to come on against Hearts, which, Tynecastle's never a fun place to play at. The crowd are usually right on top of you. It's usually a fierce atmosphere, a lot of hatred in the air. That was a game as well where they moved the ultras section to behind the Celtic goal. But they were chasing it. We were 2-0 up at that point, so they're chasing the game and putting a bit of pressure on us, but I felt we dealt with it really, really well. So he came through that one. But also, again, with Kilmarnock today, the way they've been going with their season, and given that we went down there earlier in the season and beat them 5-0 on their own patch, I think he'll be okay in that back line. And the players around him should help. McGregor's always there to show for the ball, to help the back line out and stuff when we're playing it around at the back. And he does seem very comfortable on the ball when he's passing it. And it also helps massively that he is left-footed, a natural left-footer at centre-back. That is a huge, huge help. Massive balance there between him and Starfelt now. So I don't expect any problems with him playing there. And it could very well be him getting phased in now. We'll start to see a wee bit more of him between now and the end of the season. Because after we do wrap up the title officially, there is no real reason not to give these guys more games. Because in theory, we should win it. If things keep going the way they're going, with 4 games left to play, league games, we should be officially champions. So it'll be time to get him some game time there. He could play himself into the cup final. You never know if he puts in some good performances, because it'll be Inverness or Falkirk in the final, remember, if we get there. So I'd fancy his chances against them too.
See, that's why I think this semi-final is so important, because if we manage to win that, then it'll be that treble's virtually wrapped up before you even go in the park.
Aye.
Because Falkirk have been terrible in League One this season. I think they're something like 9 points behind the Dunfermline, and
Yep, they're up the title up
Dunfermline-
yesterday.
Dunfermline get crowned champions yesterday. So I think if you're Celtic, if you beat Rangers on that day, you can virtually say that you're going to win the treble. So this game becomes so important, because usually you've got Aberdeen or you're playing maybe St Mirren or somebody that's going to pose you a challenge. But the fact that you're playing Falkirk, that puts extra importance on this game, and that's why I hope Rio Hatate and Abada are both available.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go back to something that you were talking about there, David, about saleable assets. I think we've got 3 saleable assets. I think it'll be Abada, I think it'll be David Turnbull, and I think it'll be Matt O'Reilly. Because for me, I think Iwata will be a first pick with McGregor in the midfield next season. I think Matt O'Reilly has been okay, but as Mark says, he's not showing up too often this season. And then if you look at David Turnbull's a great player, but he's not really getting a chance in this Celtic squad. So I think they're 3 players that we can definitely sell on.
Still reluctant to jump on that O'Reilly hasn't performed that well this season bandwagon just yet, Regan. I still think he has offered a lot, considering he's not been at his best. Lack of confidence, I think, maybe. But
Yep.
however, I am blind to see that perhaps O'Reilly would still be a sellable asset for next season. Would I rather keep him over Hatate? No, I'd much rather keep Hatate.
Yep.
And if we can get good money for O'Reilly, and he apparently, I don't know how true it is, but I read online somewhere that apparently he would be open to a move if the right move came along. Maybe he feels he's not getting the game time that he deserves. He might be looking at his assist tally and then again getting another one against Rangers again, thinking I could be offering more to this team, and the reason I'm maybe not performing to my best as ability is I'm not getting a real run of games since I got moved back on, out of that Callum McGregor role. And he might, I wouldn't say he'd be disgruntled, but his agent might be sitting there going, mate, Fulham didn't want you to leave. There was more than just Celtic interested in MK Dons. There'll be more now. Yeah. Maybe you should look to move on. And if that is the case, I wouldn't be overly upset that he goes, as long as the right money comes. But I'm in no way saying that I'd want to see him leave, Phil.
Yeah, I'd agree on that one. I think he's I think he set a high standard last season. I think a lot of fans are just holding that he would push on and improve from that. But I think he's still done fine. Yeah, he's probably played his best football, I would say, when he was in McGregor's position, which, funny enough, we never signed him to play that position. But I think it was a couple of weeks ago on the Blether that you read out some of his stats, and he's actually played in that sort of deep lying position in midfield actually quite a lot before he joined Celtic, which I just generally thought he was more an attacking midfielder. So the fact he could play in that deep area was a bit of a surprise to me, how well he played, and so he's played that quite a lot. So I was let's see, when it comes to his stats as well, he has got quite a fair few assists, I do believe, this season. One that stands out in particular is when we trounced them 4-0 at Celtic Park, and the Jota lob, the one over McLaughlin at the tight angle. It's a brilliant pass from O'Reilly, perfectly weighted right into the path of Jota. Doesn't need to break his stride or nothing. He just takes it perfectly and dinks it over him. So he's got those moments this season, but his best moments this season, his best displays have always come in when he was playing at the deepest point of the midfield. And unfortunately for him, Callum McGregor plays and he's also the captain. So O'Reilly's kind of found himself a bit at odds this season. But by all means, I don't buy into the fact that he's been rubbish or absolutely terrible this season. He's had sort of peaks and troughs essentially. He's went up and down a wee bit, but he's not at the point where he's like, oh, he's absolutely useless. No chance.
Patrick McLaughlin brought up a wee interesting thing. And I've seen people saying O'Reilly head went down because Ange never kept Jens. He did champion Jens a lot of being like his best mate in the Fulham Academy or something. I don't know, or wherever they've played before. Don't know how much truth would be in that, but I mean, I can see where it could be coming from. Might be just a bit disappointed in how his mate was perhaps treated. I don't know. Another player that's getting another rare start today, Phil, Mr. Haksabanovic.
Yes.
I'm really hoping that he takes his opportunity today. I imagine he'll be playing on the left-hand side because I think we've seen Maeda can play over on the right.
Yeah.
And I think Haksabanovic probably will be better over on that left-hand side. I really hope he takes his chance today because he always does seem to make a real good impact off the bench, but he hasn't really grasped that brass ring when he's been given a start for the team this season. So let's hope he takes it with both hands today.
Yeah, there was the clamouring for him to start against Hearts in the Cup. Well, I think he had started that day due to injury, so he did get the start. But yeah, even at half time in that game, you're like, he's just not really in it at all. And then he didn't even stay on the full 90 minutes, did he? That one. I mean, there was early in the season. Remember his very first start this season was in a Champions League game away at Shakhtar. He was actually heavily involved in the goal that we scored, but then got hooked off at half time. No, he set it up. It went down as an own goal officially, but he basically won the ball out wide, went on a mazy run, played into Hitati, and his shot was deflected into the net. But he was heavily involved, but then he got hooked off at half time. So he's actually quite unlucky on that day. That's when Ange was going through that period where Maeda was always coming on at half time for like a whole series of games around about that time. But Haksabanovic was the fall guy that day. But you're right, it is quite strange. He does seem to come off the bench and do a lot better than starting. I think the last time when he did actually start a game and did make an impact was we beat Dundee United back in November. I guess when he scored his first goal as well, but he started that day and he scored. But yeah, most of his goals tend to come from off the bench when he does that wee mazy run across the face of the 18-yard box and bends into the far corner. But yeah, he seems to be a good impact player, but it would be good to see him hit the ground running as if he starts it. Well, if I'm starting today, be ideal because he is a very good player. I highly rate Haksabanovic.
He said here because there's been obviously talks about whether he was unsettled or not happy about the amount of game time he was getting, but Haksabanovic said that I'm enjoying myself, as I've said before. He's making sure that I've already said this to you guys in the media. He keeps stirring that pot. As I've said before, I know there's more to come, and I'm just going to wait until I get my chance to start games. So there's more to come. But I'm very happy to be here. I know we have a good squad of players, a big squad. So I'm just waiting for my time. I'm training hard and I'm improving myself out there. Regan, I think we've got a player that's got a great mindset. He's obviously very competitive. He's not one that's just going to sit there and expect to be starting every week. And if he doesn't, he's going to throw his dummy out. He's going to train hard and make sure that he keeps his name in that pot, and hopefully Ange recognises that and gives him more opportunities. And he obviously recognises that he's going to get those opportunities, such as today. And like I said, I hope he does take it.
I think it's actually quite impressive that you get these players nowadays, because a lot of the time you get these players that like are pretty sad for being on the bench and they throw the toys at the pram and they're not happy, and then there's a fight with the manager and they're not, well, why am I not getting game time? You bought me for big money. So it's quite admirable that he's providing his time, and he knows his place as well. He knows that Joe is a very good player and Abada's playing well. So sometimes you just need to suck it up and take your medicine and realise you've got really good players in front of you. And I think it was something that Johnson said during the week. He said, we've got a real good, a lot of good players in the squad, like really good mindsets. Everybody's got a strong mindset, and that's why we're so good. He says, I've never been involved in a squad that's everybody's together and everybody's going in the same direction. I think that's, for me, that's why we're doing so well. I mean, if you look at other squads across the UK or even in our own league now. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and I think that just shows the mentality and the mindset. I mean, Johnson did, he just mentioned, and you mentioned the whole coaching staff. Everybody's all buying into where everybody's going. I think he even spoke about James Forrest, who's injured. He spoke about Tony Ralston. He spoke about Joe Hart being a real good leader. So I think there's a real, everybody's kind of going in one direction, and that can only be good for Celtic because, like you said, David, see, even although he's not getting much play time, he's still managing to be a good figure in the squad and score the goals, as Phil was saying earlier. I think he scored against Lee Johnson's side there in the season, Dundee United, and then he scored against the other side of Edinburgh as well. So he's still managing to score goals even though he's popping off at the bench.
They all blend in the one region because they all look the same. Every goal he scores is an absolute belter. So I forget which ones. Alan Robertson brought up a question here that I want to just highlight. Is Hacksaw not best suited to being a number 10? I would be quite interested to see that, Phil, if the opportunity arises. I think he would. I don't know, he just kind of looks like the player that would kind of almost suit that role. I think he said he's quite confident enough to play across the front, the attacking third. So, I mean, perhaps whether he almost looks to me like he can get that almost free roaming role.
Yeah.
If you will. Although I don't know if Ange is too keen on letting people just do as they please.
I think when we signed him, I can remember there was a few stories about like he can play like these sort of areas. I think it's all by design, Ange, with the team, where he looks for players that can play in different positions. So especially with the front line, it's very, very fluid. We see the wingers usually swap sides a lot during games, and 1 minute Maeda will be running at the full back, and then the next minute Jota comes over and runs at him. So yeah, I think he likes that idea of players that can be moved around in game as well. Keeps defenses guessing, keeps them. So I think it's a good weapon to have, and I think Haksabanovic could play there. He seems like he's got the traits to do it. Just a case of who drops out and so on. But again, these are all good headaches for Ange to have. You know, you'd much rather be in that position with all these different players that can play in these positions are all in good form and so on. You'd much rather be in that place than, obviously the chasing pack right now, who are just, square pegs, round holes and all that. And so I'd like to think that Haksabanovic could play in there at some point. And again, with the way the league's going, say in theory we should, wrap up the title with a few games to spare. That could be the chance to try these different things for those few games. It's all where I would be quite confident, even with a few changes, we would still be getting the wins on the board. So this idea about records we might be chasing, I still be very confident we get them. Because, I mean, there isn't much to fear in the Scottish Premiership for us.
No.
The only headache that it's given me is all these shot numbers on the wrong players, Phil. I keep going on about it. I can't stand, get that number 8 off Kyogo. I don't even like the number 9 on Haksabanovic. Somebody take the number 10.
No.
Crazy.
You and I have got that number OCD. I actually mentioned on Bustalgia on Friday night. I was talking about the 09 season. Derek Riordan was back at Hibs with 0-1 on his back because he couldn't get 10. That just gave me the 0-1. He was allowed to wear 0-1. I mean, technically that would be number 1, so would that not clash with goal? But apparently 0-1, the SPL allowed it, and honestly, it gives me the book. Joe Cancelo wearing number 7 at Man City and all that, and he's a right fullback, and I'm just like, nah. So don't get me started. If we do a whole podcast on that, or I'd go on a rant about numbers. No.
McGregor 42 kills me, and then you've got Awata took 24. It just stresses me out. But anyway, we'll get on before I go on an absolute mental numbers rampage, like I'm Rain Man or something. Right. One other player I want to talk about, Regan, before we finish up on the Celtic versus Kilmarnock chat. As said at the beginning of the show, Celtic striker Kyogo Oh under Klinsmann's spotlight at Rugby Park. Ange Postecoglou has revealed that our South Korean forward Oh will be under the spotlight this Sunday afternoon against Kilmarnock. For the Celtic boss has made the revelation that German legend Jurgen Klinsmann will be in attendance as we take on Derek McInnes's Kilmarnock away from home in the Scottish Premiership. He said, I had an exchange with Jurgen after the camp, and he was really happy with Oh in the camp. He's going to continue to develop. That was his first international camp with Jurgen, and he mentioned he was keen to come over and watch him, and that the Kilmarnock game would fit in. Hopefully he enjoys the game, and I'm sure that O will get a chance to impress. So Regan, if O, well, I was going to ask if O started today, would it have added some extra pressure onto him? Well, of course, he isn't starting today, but I'm sure he will get at least probably half an hour, I'd imagine, if the game's going in the right direction. So if he comes on, having his national team manager in the crowd, is that going to add some added pressure onto O? And is he going to thrive on that pressure, or will he crumble under it?
See, that's why I was thinking, for Andrew's point of view, because he was saying it to the media, that's why I was thinking he would play O for the start, because I thought, right, well, if Celtic draw today, then it's 10 points. I don't think there's any real pressure on the game, so I thought he would play O for the start. But like you said, I think it's a bit of a shame they'll probably only get half an hour, 25 minutes. But yeah, no, I don't think O will crack under the pressure. I think I thought he should have probably scored last week. I don't know if you guys remember the chance, but it was 3-1 and 1 with McGregor at 3-1, I think, Phil.
Took an extra touch, didn't he? Am I right?
Aye.
So he took an extra touch and he was closed down, am I right? Or
I think he looks very very assured as a Celtic player so far. He obviously scored that header when he got in front of the
against Hibs, aye.
In front of the attackers and the defenders from the corner. So I think he looks very raw. But I think, as I said, he's got a lot of development in him. But I think he's a very impressive player. And I think it's only good for Celtic that he's going to do his development here. He obviously enjoys it because we managed to see his big six-pack the last time we scored. So he obviously enjoys it as well.
one for the calendar, Regan.
One for the calendar for all the ladies out there. But no, I mean, fair play to him for coming over here for Asia. So, and I think for Jurgen Klinsmann, he'll just wanting to see what he's all about. And obviously, if he's called him up, then he's went. If he's called Ange up, then obviously he's impressed with him. And Ange's not going to say that he's been impressed with him if he's not been impressed with him. I think, obviously, he's got a lot of development, but he can be a big one for the future for Celtic and his national team as well. So I think it can only be a good thing for Celtic as well, especially going into Champions League, because he'll be looking. Because remember, we spoke about this, Phil, about a big physical striker in the Champions League. I think he could possibly be that.
He's one that's not shy to shoot, Regan. He's not one that's shy away from taking a shot, even if there may be a better option on. He'll take a shot if he has any sort of chance of it, and that's what I like about him. Sometimes I feel that we get into positions where we could probably take the shot a little bit earlier, but we do a couple of extra passes first, and I don't think that's in O's DNA, Phil. I think he, if he gets even half a chance of getting his name up in lights and he can take that shot off, I think he'll take it.
That's actually the reason why he's wanting to get it. Goes just to show off. Well, he's down in Kilmarnock today. He better not indulge in any killy pies, or else that six-pack won't be sticking around much longer. Maybe that's why Jurgen Klinsmann's made Kilmarnock one of the places he's visited on his trip. You know, he heard about the famous killy pie, so he's headed down there for one of those.
There's no piesports.com though, Phil. Yeah,
they're great competition.
We'll get your 12.5% off the killy pies. You'll get your 12. You'll get your 12 points.
But no, I mean, I'm happy to see that Jurgen Klinsmann's come over to show the interest in him, and I think he does look like he has one for the future, without a shadow of doubt. There is, Regan's right in what he's saying, there is still a bit of rawness there. There is still a wee bit to a bit of development and so on. But I'm quite hopeful of the future for him. And obviously with Giakoumakis, we were all big fans of GG here on the Bhoycie Bus, and I just think, and I back what his decision is. He's decided that GG was essentially walked out as a stopgap striker when you think about it. Maybe always the type of player he was looking for all along. So yeah, I'd like to think that he would develop into a very good player for us. And he's definitely not shy to have a shot at goal. Sometimes he can be a bit too eager and maybe fluffs it at times. And maybe that's just a naivety because he's young still and he's trying to impress too much. Sometimes a wee bit of a calmer head might might benefit him. But I'm still hopeful. I think that overall he'll develop into a very good player for us. And yeah, hopefully today with Klinsmann coming to watch him, he does get some significant time, and it's not like 10 minutes at the end of the game. If I give a winning quite comfortably with like half an hour to go, like 3 up or something, then I could see him coming on there. But if it's still like a tight 2-1 or 1-0 or something at that stage, then I don't know, about 50-50 on how much time he'll get.
And I know this is no part of the show today, but I want to ask you guys a question.
No. I have a script in front of me, Regan. What are you doing? On you go, mate. On you go.
See if we get a penalty today, who do you think will take it? Because I think Jota's obviously not playing. Jota's obviously not playing. Moy's not playing. So who do you think will take it?
I don't see Kyogo take one.
Kyogo's a took one.
I striker take a penalty. Come on.
Should be able to. I mean, he's the top goal scorer. A shot from 12 yards, a free shot at goal, shouldn't be a difficult one for him. I know that with penalties, sometimes it can also be a mental thing as well. It can be other than just the ability. So, I don't know, because McGregor's hit penalties in the past and went through a spell where he was scoring them. Then he missed a lot, then started missing them, then he went off of them.
Maybe Haksabanovic. I reckon he'd be more than comfortable stepping up taking a penalty.
Aye. Although that's the whole conundrum. Will we get a penalty? Who knows? Oh yeah, I know. I was preaching last week. We're going to get one against Rangers. How naive of me! How silly of me to think such a thing. No chance.
Did Rangers get a penalty yesterday?
Yes, they missed it. Tavernier missed it.
Lol.
My God.
Yeah. I think I do like Phil. I do like him. I want to see him get more game time. I mean, this is no slant on Kyogo at all. But what was the stat? In the Ross County game, he had double the amount of touches in like 15 minutes and put 4 more shots on than Kyogo did against Ross County. So he gets himself stuck about, is the point I'm making.
He does. He does, mate.
But of course, Kyogo is the man.
He's the top boy
from
really
Japan that can't stop scoring. Speaking of Kyogo's scoring form, Japan manager Moriyasu could be making a U-turn on Kyogo and leaving that the national side door open. Japan boss sets for talks with Celtic over Kyogo as he admits to being nervous.
Cheers, Craigie, for the donation, by the way.
Oh wow, thank you very much, mate.
Betfred, Kevin Hodds, and even 5 or more Celtic players getting a carpet burnt today. Yes, that picture. I saw the picture on the Celtic Twitter account posted. That pitch, man, it does look like if you fall on it, it's going to hurt.
Somebody tell because I think he'll definitely do a knee slide today if he.
Oh yeah, aye. Oh, don't do that. Oh, do not.
Yeah, don't do that, mate.
No,
do not do that. Yes, so Moriyasu says he is nervous about Ange Postecoglou's reaction. Moriyasu hopes to visit Ange Postecoglou on his European tour in the coming weeks and has told Kyogo his Japan exile could be over soon. He said Kyogo is always a candidate for the national team. I see that he is producing results for Celtic and that has the value to play as a force for the Japanese national team at any time. There is still time before the next games, so I don't know if he will be picked by next time. But he will always be a member of the Japanese national team. Now, Kyogo Regan hasn't let his national team snub allow him to dip in form. Clearly, if anything, it's probably spurred him on. So I think that really does show the type of character that Kyogo is. So what does this do to his mindset now? Does this push him on even further to get back into that samurai blue shirt, or is it just another day at work for Kyogo?
I don't know if you guys watched the documentary on FIFA. I watched it on my laptop about when Kyogo got snubbed for the World Cup squad, and he was talking away in Glasgow to FIFA about it and saying that it doesn't matter. He's so positive and want to get on with Celtic and to do his best for the club. I think Kyogo's one of these guys that, see, even if he gets a knockback, he'll be straight on that park, try to do his best. I don't think he's one of these guys that gets phased and goes, oh no, I need to leave Celtic. I need to go because I think I think he's 28 now. 28 now. So I think Kyogo's he's got a very mature head on him, and I think in terms of this, I think it's just the Japan manager basically admitting he's made a complete and utter how would you say it, shit show of it because
James
he's
Hunt.
not really he was kind of a few months ago he was saying the standard of Scottish football is shite, and now he's saying he's going to come over and speak to Angie's kind of making a U-turn on it. Maybe he's seen Kyogo scoring 3 goals against Rangers in his last 2, and he's went, shit, I better go over here and see what Kyogo's all about.
He did say, Regan, that Postecoglou had told Mariasu he is always welcome at Celtic, but the Japan boss revealed that he was nervous because of the reaction of what his claims were about the SPFL quality. He said, I'm not good at English myself, so when I saw that the media that he had said, let's talk, I was a little nervous, but I got it translated and I realised he said I was always welcome. But he was a wee bit worried that the big Ange didn't take too kindly to the claims of the SPFL league's quality. But it wasn't that wrong, to be fair.
The comments, if I was someone, be staying as far away from here as possible because it sounds as if he's a wee bit shit scared there, Ange, to be honest. So I don't know if he'll be here anytime soon. But what I will say is, I think Kyogo and Rio, I think they totally deserve their places in the Japan squad because of no disrespect, but if Maeda can get a starting spot in Japan, then for God's sake, we need to make a spot for Kyogo because Kyogo for me, I said this to John Hartson the other night. I think that Kyogo. I said that Kyogo. I think he'll be at Celtic for the rest of his time. I think he will. So I think the Japanese managers will need to become reluctant to say, right, well, if Kyogo's going to be here for a long time, then he's going to have to get picked because forget the standard. I think the standard of Scottish football has been rubbish this season. Like if you look at Aberdeen, they could beat off a Scottish Premier junior side, and now they're 5 points clear in first spot. They were 10 points behind Hearts, and now they're 5 points ahead. So I think the Japanese manager is slightly correct, but I think if you're going to say that to Ange, I think you'd be better being very careful.
Regan, Mullen, who plays for Wrexham, non-league football, is getting a call up for Wales. So,
My
in the argument, I mean, we were discussing that on TalkSport the other day, and I think it was, what's his name? I've forgotten his name. Stuart Pearce had said, if you can score goals, you can score goals in any league. Doesn't matter if you're a goal scorer, you can score in any league. Essentially, if you know where the goal is, you will find it. And obviously, that's what they're saying about this Mullen. Probably because it's the whole Wrexham carry on with the Deadpool and that. But he does have a point. I think Kyogo is a goal scorer clearly. Perhaps he was lacking a little bit of form when the Champions League came around. Maybe came around too early for him. But I think if he keeps the way he's going for next season, I think he'll score. He will take the chances in the Champions League next year, and of course, we'll probably do just fine in the Japanese national team. I mean, look at the players that are in that Japanese national side. There's some absolute brilliant players. I think was it you, Regan, that put in the group chat that the boy is it Kamada that's at not Kamada.
Kamada.
Is that the German side? He's on a
Frankfurt.
Is it Frankfurt?
But he's just going to sign for Dortmund. Yep, he's just going
to. I would have signed for Borussia Dortmund now, and that's the caliber of player that are available for the Japanese manager to sign to call up attacking players. Mito, you've got the boy at Brighton who we tried to sign.
I can't believe that, David. See when you told me that last week, I could not believe it because he's one of my favourite players at the moment. I watched him again yesterday against Chelsea. He ripped him apart. Man. He's a great player, and it's just sad that we couldn't have Kyogo and Matoma because they would be ripping shreds to this league.
Right, here's a question for you then, Phil. If we had signed Matoma, would Jota have been signed on loan?
Oh,
Was it around about that time that we were linked to him? Yeah.
He wanted Matoma and he wanted Kyogo, and he only got Kyogo.
No, we wouldn't have signed Jota then,
We would
because
not
if
have
that's a
signed
player
Jota.
that he wanted, then he probably had a lot of background knowledge on him, given he would be playing the J League, then I think we would have went with him. And to be fair, going by the results that that boy's producing at Brighton, how good a player he looks, then I think we'd be doing all right with him as
Or
well,
we
to
would
be
not have had
fair.
Abada. Or we would not have had Abada. And we might, could you imagine we had, now don't get me wrong, Abada's been great.
Yeah.
But could you imagine we signed Jota and Matoma and Kyogo?
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah, days.
That's world class.
Oh, my days.
Abada might be the one that would miss it, because you've got to remember Abada's signing, he was, I believe, the first significant signing when Ange joined, because we signed the boy from, was it Urugide? But that wasn't really, I don't think that was an Ange. It was like 2 days after Ange joined, but the first major sign. But remember who Abada's agent was? Dudu Dahan, and it was a time where we needed to start getting bodies in, so it did reek of a sort of, we've just went to Dudu again. Luckily for us, Abada definitely worked out compared to some of the other signings that Mr. Dahan has thrown at us over the years. But it was all too convenient that, the first major bit of money we spent under Ange was for Lil Abada, who was a Dudu Dahan client, essentially. So, yeah, I think Abada's probably the one that misses it then. If we do send him, we probably would get Jota in the end. But that just, man, wow. The probably Haksabanovic wouldn't have been signed then when you think about it a year later.
Funny, you always do that. Yeah, you go, if we'd signed that player, we wouldn't have signed this.
All these sliding door moments, or this if buts and maybes, it's mad.
Still, jeez, oh man, that boy is some player. He will
Very
not
good
be at
player.
Brighton long. He will not be at Brighton long at all. And saying that, he probably wouldn't have been with us very long either. But at the stand of the league,
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll give a little shout out, a little catchphrase there to one Mr. Frimpong. I'd like to quickly discuss. We've got 15 minutes left, guys. I think we'll wrap up very soon. So I just want to get through this. Celtic could be in line to receive a 13.2 million windfall this summer, with former player Jeremy Frimpong keen on a move to Manchester United, probably to the Dutch links there, I imagine. So what's the latest news on Frimpong and how could it impact Celtic? Well, Frimpong left Parkhead for Bayer Leverkusen back in 2021 and has gone from strength to strength in Germany. His transfer market valuation has rocketed up from 4 million to a career high 35 million after departing Scotland. He's now a Dutch international, and he's really got too much game time at the World Cup, but he seems to be getting in there a lot more. He's the second best performer this season behind Florian Wirtz, who we all seen play against us a couple of seasons ago, and he's a cracking player. He's registered more assists than any other player and is leading the way for dribbles completed, while also being Leverkusen's most filled player. So should Frimpong depart in a deal with £44 million, Hoops would be in line to receive 13.2 million after negotiating a 30% sell-on clause in the 11.5 million deal that allowed Frimpong to head to Bundesliga. So, Regan, I will ask you the question: if Frimpong does move on, and we do get that 13.2 million on top of the 11.5 million we got on him when he left, is Ange likely to have that added to his war chest to tackle the Champions League, or is it going to go to some fancy new car park at Parkhead?
No, as long as it doesn't go to Peter Lowell, I'm more than happy with it. But no, I think hopefully it does go to Ange, because if you look at the recruitment over the past couple of years, Ange just showed this board that he's more than capable of getting a really good recruitment team in place, and he's very good at scouting a player as well. So I'd be more than confident to say to Ange, right, and we've got a 30% sell on. If he goes for 40 million, you get 13 million. Okay, you can go and spend it, because it's like Phil and Russell said a few weeks ago on Bustalgia that there is so much right about this club, but in terms of transfer fees, there's been so much wrong for me, because we should be outspending every single season. We should be breaking a transfer record, because for our transfer record to still be 9 million quid is a disgrace, in my opinion.
I mean, I think Bhoycie pointed out that if we do get that, if that transfer does go over the line, whether it's Manchester United or Chelsea because they like just signing everybody. You know, we could make more money on Frimpong's sell-on clause than we would on any of our assets that we have at the club already.
It's a disgrace.
That's what I was thinking when you said that. I was like, that's got to be some sort of record. Like, that's a hell of a deal that Celtic have negotiated there. Fair play. You say 13 million. I was like, what's the percentage that they go 30%? Jeez, that's.
We signed that boy for £350,000, I think. I'm right in saying. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but we signed him from Manchester City on a, paying him for the development fee. And he wasn't even the one that was supposed to be the guy that it was him and O'Connor.
It was we had at the same time we had the Israeli one, El Hamid, remember him?
Yeah, but we signed two boys. We signed two youth players. We signed the boy that was the Manchester United captain at youth level, and we did
sign him actually. Yeah, aye.
And Frimpong.
We also had Moritz Bauer that season. We had 3 right backs after Lustig left, and it was El Hamid, Moritz Bauer, and Frimpong was third in the pecking order. And then he got a game, and I think it was like a League Cup game. He was Partick Thistle, and it was like, he looks quite handy, this boy, and he never looked back after that. But honestly, see if that deal was to go through, say those fees that you just quoted all do happen. In the end, we have recouped about 24 million overall from him, but it would just be a smidgen under what we got for Kieran Tierney, which is our record transfer out of the club. So it's like, that's an astounding deal if that does come to fruition. Jesus.
Who was the Irish guy we signed with the long hair with the Neil Lennon side, remember?
Oh, the boy they got him from Bolton, did we not?
Luke O'Connell. Yeah.
Luke O'Connell, yeah. So you're not playing was he not sent on loan to Queen's Park?
Queen's Park. He spent most of his time at Celtic on loan at Queen's Park. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy, absolutely. Well, like I was saying, I'd like to think that goes straight into the war chest, and we do go and sign a marquee signing. I'd read somewhere that Ange is concentrating on a marquee signings in defence, midfield, centre midfield, and up front. So a good spine of the team. Now, I'd like to think we'd spend more than just that 13 million, but it's a fair whack of cash to throw at somebody. Certain free transfer.
I seen the name come up a moment ago. Yeah,
I'll not beat that job anymore. We all know who we're talking about.
The thing is, if it's not specifically him, a player of that level, just use Dembele as an example, but there are players of that level, and it's like push the ball out for a player like that. You want to make an impact in a tournament like the Champions League. I would be happy see if Celtic brought in like 3 players and some, only 3, but they spent big on them. It would be like perfect. That's what you need. You want quality, not necessarily quantity. So. Players of that ilk would be phenomenal.
Is there anyone in particular? I'll throw this to the comments as well, just out of interest, because I just love playing this game, right? With that money in mind, and like we're not just saying Dembele, let's just forget Dembele, right? We all know we'd love him back, right? Who else in that ilk that's affordable with that kind of money coming in, and obviously with the Champions League money and everything else, is there a certain player in any position that you would just love to see us go for that's in that sort of bracket? Is there anybody out there? Because it's just a fun game to be had, and it's the transfers rumours will just start very, very soon again. Obviously. It's like one of those ones where sometimes it could be a bit lazy looking at, who's not really doing that well in the Premier League, because we've been bitten by that a few times with the Yeti, etc. But there are some players that they just go, he would be cracking, he would be class. Like even like he's unfortunately he's done almost too well. That boy that's banging the goals at Burnley on loan for Southampton, I reckon he would do just fine up here. Of course, I still can't get my head around the Southampton. I haven't called him back. But just is there anybody out there? The Irish goalkeeper at Liverpool, Stephen McArthur, has said that's a shout. I think a goalkeeping position would be, if we could. Don't want to, we spent 5 million on a certain goalkeeper that had no hands, so we just got.
True.
Goalkeepers are such a difficult one to value. I think, Phil.
Yeah, it can be
because Barkas. Looking at his record at AK Athens and his performances, he looked well worth the money in my eyes. How wrong was I? How wrong was Lennon?
Although how much was Lennon actually involved in that one? Because he did make it clear that he very much wanted Fraser Forster to return, and when Forster said no to that one, that was like the one that essentially was forced upon him. But see, when you're talking about players to look at, one of the things that a trap that you can fall into as you look at the teams that are probably going to get relegated from the English Premier League this year, right? And you're like, okay, maybe a player there, does he fancy the Championship, wants to trade it for a bit of Champions League football? But see the money even some of the players are on. Look at Leicester this season, right? Premier League champions just, 7 years ago? You know, they've obviously achieved that. They won the FA Cup a few years ago. They're a decent team, but they're ahead pretty much for relegation. Even players there, like Ian Atchell up front for them, the boy who got from Man City, I bet he's on like $100,000 a week or something like that.
Something easy.
Yeah,
Phil, the boy at Brighton, that Ferguson.
Oh, Evan Ferguson. Yeah, he's
19 years old. I mean, he looks a player, by the way. One I think probably will do very, very well. But you know, he's a possibility. And I'm not just saying that because he's got the Irish links. He's just on great form at the minute, and he's doing excellent. But we'll quickly move on because we're running out of time. I just want to quickly go over a couple more things. I did mention a former defender could be relegated and win a medal in the same season. That is, of course, defender.
I'm very intrigued by this one.
That's meant to be tense music. Morris Jens. Morris Jens is in line for a league winners medal if Celtic wrap up the SPFL title, which we will in the coming weeks. Like everyone expect, and the German centre back could also be relegated with Schalke. They are currently sitting in the relegation zone. It's looking tight in that German league here. It says it's tight at the bottom of the Bundesliga. Schalke are in the relegation zone with 6 games to play. 17th and 18th spot are automatic relegation, and 16th is a playoff spot. 3 of Schalke's last 6 games are against Bayern, Leipzig, and Frankfurt. Every Celtic fan's favourite.
It's going to Frankfurt.
It's going to great team. Always
followed Frankfurt since I was a lad.
I've got the shots in the cupboard somewhere. I need to look them up. It's going to take a monumental effort for Mortis and Schalke to beat the drop. Well, you know, he's only on loan, so it's not like a massive issue for him. But that's an interesting position to find himself in.
Schalke's a weird one because in my head I've always had that Schalke are one of the sort of big boys in the Bundesliga, but a few years ago they were in the 2nd division in Germany for a few seasons, struggled, got back up, and looks like they're heading straight back down. And another team as well that's been wallowing in the 2nd division for years has been Hamburg, who again, big stadium, big club, former European Cup winners. They're down the 2nd division as well at the moment. So but Schalke heading for the relegation again. I'm pretty sure I just mentioned a minute ago as well, there was the Leicester title win. I think there was a defender that year that was on loan at a club in the 2nd half of the season. He got relegated. Was it Richie Delate, Delaet, Belgian defender. And he got a Premier League winners medal because he played in the 1st half of the season with Leicester, but then spent the 2nd half of the season on loan at another club that got relegated. So he's got that accolade as well. I'm pretty sure it's him. But after you mentioned that, we mentioned Leicester a few minutes ago. It's the exact same scenario. By Morris Jens, when you said at the start, I was like, that's really good trivia. I can't think who that'd be. Morris Jens.
Here's a quick one, right? Just quickly, the names just popped in my head. We talked about Leicester now. Jamie Vardy, I'm sure, will be out of contract at the end of the season. Would you take him? He's like 48 years old, but still.
It was mad that he got a contract extension at the start of the season, given he is like 35 or 36 now. But it just shows you that the investment at Leicester's went completely down the pot, and that's why, you know, obviously Brendan, one of the reasons that he was set to walk away, and obviously he did eventually. When I saw that they were giving him another contract extension, then I was like, still a proven goal scorer. I know this season he's been definitely phased out at Leicester, but I do believe, and I don't know if this is just a meme or a joke, but I think maybe his political beliefs probably don't line up with the Celtic fans, put it that way.
Oh my God, he's the face that runs the place. He's here. It's Regan's music. It's Regan's music. Oh my God, he's here. He's here. It's gotta be Kane.
There he is on camera.
Here. Regan has arrived. Just in time.
How you doing?
Just in time, Regan. Mate, it's good to see your face.
The face that runs the place is literally on the screen now. Welcome back.
He is back. He is back. Right, quickly before we go, right, I've just hit the hour mark. The game is not long for starting away. Prediction, lads, quickly.
2-1 just.
2-1 just. Just. All right,
Simply,
okay.
simply because I've been doing a bit of research and Kilmarnock are very, very good at home. And I seen yesterday that Dundee United, the big handsome Jim Goodwin, he got a result away at Motherwell. So I think Kilmarnock will be right up for this. And I seen that they gave Rangers a good game earlier on the season. But I mean, Phil's a Celtic encyclopedia, so he'll know that Celtic won 6-0 earlier on the season. But I'm going to go for 2-1 just.
Oh,
Fair.
Phil? I'll say 3-0 Celtic. I think we'll get the job done. But maybe all the ones it's 1-0 till well into the second half, and then we get 2 goals late on. But I think we'll go on and win it and get the job done, regardless. The Celtic win anyway.
Well, Kyogo has his sights set on becoming a half-century boy when he lines up against Kilmarnock today. He is currently on 48 goals and 78 appearances for the Hoops. I think he'll break that record today. I think he'll win 3-0. Kyogo gets 2. Maidon a hat-trick. That's a good coming. The maths don't add up, but it'll still happen.
How many goals does he need for that 20-goal bet to come in with Mark?
1. I've lost count.
Yeah.
I think I've lost that bet. I mean, but you never know.
I'm going to say Big O scores a last-minute goal and runs up to the Rugby Park press box, sees Jurgen Klinsmann, takes his top off, runs about.
Just right in front of him. Just stands right in front of him. Look at these abs, Jurgen. Look at these abs. Right, well, on that note, we'll get wrapped up. Let you get your pies in the oven.
Yep.
Won the Hoops. See you all next week. Thanks again, everybody.
Bye.
Well, you've all that stuff at the start. They won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.